You know those moments when someone you really care about shares something,
Yeah.
an interest maybe, or a part of themselves that you just don't fully get?
Yeah, absolutely. It could be anything, really.
Right. Maybe it's a really niche hobby, or sometimes it's something deeper, more about intimacy, connection, and you're left thinking, how do I, approach this with real understanding
Yeah.
without judgment?
That's exactly the territory we're exploring today. This deep dive is really about navigating the world of kink, which can be, let's face it, pretty misunderstood sometimes.
Definitely.
We want to look at how you can approach it with empathy, especially if it involves someone close to you.
Okay.
It's not about saying you have to join in, but more about gaining an informed perspective.
And our main guide for this is a really fantastic book, When Someone You Love is Kinky by Dossie, Easton, and Janet W. Hardy.
A classic in the field.
Totally. So our mission here is to unpack the key insights from their work, give you a kind of shortcut to getting informed, but without, overwhelming you with every single detail.
This is good. Where should we start?
Well, let's dive right in with those first reactions. So, you find out a loved one is kinky. The book says it's totally okay, actually expected, to feel, well, a whole mix of things.
Right, like shock.
Shock, yeah, or maybe guilt, fear, even anger or confusion. Maybe feeling weirdly responsible somehow.
Mm-hmm. Those are all very human responses.
Exactly. And Easton and Hardy make it super clear. Those feelings are valid. Don't beat yourself up about them. They even suggest practical things like just taking a moment, doing some breathing exercises.
It's just to manage that initial wave of emotion.
Yeah, exactly. To give yourself a bit of space to start processing it all.
And it helps to understand what kink even means in this context.
Mhm.
The authors, Easton and Hardy, they define it pretty broadly.
How so?
Well, essentially as a wide variety of sexual behaviors, desires, fantasies, things that fall outside what society generally labels as normal.
Okay.
But they add this really important historical perspective. They point out that loads of things we might call kinky today, they were actually pretty accepted in the past.
Oh, interesting.
And it wasn't really until the 19th century, with psychologists like Richard von Krafft-Ebing in his book Psychopathia Sexualis, that these things started getting labeled as like deviations, pathologized.
So our idea of normal sex is relatively recent, historically speaking.
In many ways, yes. And the book makes a really provocative point building on that.
Which is?
They argue that the common idea of normal sex, the sort of single-form monogamous, mainly for procreation model, is actually, quote, a statistical abnormality.
Wow. A statistical abnormality. How do they back that up?
Well, they cite a Kinsey statistic. Now, stats can be debated, but this one suggested the average couple has sex maybe 2 or 3 times a week,
Okay.
and the average session length, about 1 minute and 7 seconds.
A minute and 7 seconds? Seriously?
According to that specific research, yeah. So when you look at it like that very narrow definition of normal intercourse,
Yeah.
it's actually not that common in practice.
That really flips the script on what we think of as standard.
It does. And it leads into the next big question the book tackles.
Mm.
Why are people kinky? Is it a choice? Learned? Born that way?
What's their take?
They suggest it can be. Well, any of those, or a mix. It might be something inherent, part of someone's wiring from the start.
Yeah.
Or it could be learned, discovered. Or maybe a combination.
Okay.
But the key thing they emphasize is that, for many, it's a really fundamental part of who they are. It's not seen as a disorder or a pathology,
Right.
but more like a natural sexual variation. Less about deciding one day I'll be kinky, and more about expressing something that's already there.
That makes sense. It's about identity for some people.
Exactly. And that brings us to language, which the book highlights as being super important.
We talk about it matters.
Hugely.
Mm-hmm.
Easton and Hardy mention they try to avoid too much obscure jargon, make it accessible. But some terms are just necessary for clarity, especially when you're new to it all.
Right, like the word kink itself.
Yeah, they use kink as kind of big umbrella term. It covers a massive range of interests and activities.
And they have terms for people, too.
They often use friendly terms like kink folk or kin folks, just trying to make it feel less clinical, more human.
That's nice.
And they also make a point about gender. They explain that gender is about how someone feels inside their identity, not just their biological sex at birth.
Important distinction.
Very. So while the book might sometimes use he or she for simplicity when talking about a hypothetical kinky person, they really stress being flexible and respectful of diverse identities.
And if you get stuck on terms.
They include a glossary. which is super helpful. A good resource right in the book.
Okay, so we have the definition, the history, the language. What about the actual activities? What do kinky people do? The book covers a lot, right?
Oh, yeah, a huge spectrum, from things that are quite gentle to stuff that's much more intense, physically or psychologically.
Give us some examples, like bondage.
Right. Bondage. That's about restricting movement. Could be with ropes, scarves, handcuffs, even gags. But it's often not just about being tied up.
There's more to it.
Definitely. There's often a big psychological component. Exploring sensations, maybe feelings of vulnerability or helplessness, power exchange. All within agreed boundaries, of course.
Okay. And then there's SM?
SM, or sadomasochism, that's another big umbrella term. It includes things like dominance and submission, which people shorten to Ds,
Right.
and master-slave dynamics or misnovations. Also discipline scenarios.
Yeah.
The core idea is usually a consensual exchange of power.
Power exchange. And often physical sensation is involved.
Often, yes. But the book really emphasizes that it's about the agreed-upon roles and the emotional or psychological experience within that safe container they create.
Gotcha. What else? Role-playing comes up too, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It's
Role-playing can be
yeah.
huge. Think fantasy scenarios. The book mentions things like teacher-student, doctor-patient, maybe even child-parent roles.
Okay.
Or animal play, where someone might take on the persona of a pet. Even more elaborate things like mock kidnapping scenes. It's all about stepping into a fantasy, exploring different facets of yourself or a particular dynamic.
Seems very creative. And fetishes.
Fetishes, yeah. That's when someone has a specific sexual interest tied to an object, a material, a piece of clothing, or even a body part that isn't typically seen as sexual.
Like leather or boots.
Exactly. Leather, latex, rubber, uniforms, shoes, feet. It can be almost anything. The book lists quite a few examples.
And cross-dressing.
Cross-dressing is mentioned too, dressing in clothes typically associated with a different gender. For some, it's part of their gender expression. For others, it's more specifically linked to sexual arousal or fantasy.
Okay. What about pain? You hear about that sometimes.
Right, pain play. That's about exploring intense physical sensations consensually. People who enjoy receiving intense sensation are sometimes called pain sluts, or more playfully, pain pigs or pain pups.
Again, consensual being the key.
Always. And it's often about pushing limits safely, finding release or focus through intensity. Then there's dominance and submission, which we touched on under SM.
Can you elaborate a bit more on Ds?
Sure. It's that dynamic where one partner, often called the top or dominant, takes control, and the other, the bottom or submissive, yields control. It's a very defined power exchange, but again, negotiated.
Negotiated control.
Exactly. And one other interesting concept they mention is dancing the shadow.
Dancing the shadow, what's that?
It's this idea of using kink to explore the parts of ourselves that we usually repress or hide our shadow side, psychologically speaking, using play to integrate those aspects.
Fascinating. Now, there's one area, age play, that probably needs careful explanation.
Yes, absolutely. The book is very clear on this. Age play is described as a consensual role play where adults adopt roles of different ages.
Like someone playing younger or older.
Right. Someone might play the role of a child, an infant, a teenager, or perhaps an older authority figure like a parent or teacher. It's about the dynamic and the fantasy between consenting adults.
And this is crucially different from...
Crucially different from pedophilia. The book explicitly states that pedophilia is an illegal sexual attraction to actual children. Ethical, kinky people, the book stresses, find this abhorrent and actively avoid it. There's a very bright line.
Okay, that's a vital distinction.
Absolutely vital. All the activities we've discussed, no matter how they might sound, are fundamentally based on clear agreement, safety protocols, and the mutual pleasure of the adults involved.
Which brings us neatly to those core principles. The book boils it down, right?
It does, to that famous mantra, safe, sane, and consensual, SSC.
Safe, sane, and consensual. What does that mean in practice?
It means safety is paramount, physical, and emotional. Sane implies that everyone involved is of sound mind and understands what they're consenting to. And consensual, well, that means enthusiastic, informed agreement from everyone.
And how do they ensure that?
Through rigorous communication and negotiation. The book hammers this home. You talk everything through before you play. Limits, desires, potential risks, what's okay, what's definitely not okay.
Negotiation is key.
Absolutely essential. And part of that is often establishing a safe word.
Ah, yes, the safe word.
A pre-agreed word or signal that means stop everything immediately, no questions asked. The book gives examples like red for a hard stop, and maybe yellow for slow down or check in.
So everyone knows how to pause or stop if needed.
Exactly. It's a crucial safety net. It's all about knowing your own limits, understanding your partner's limits, discussing risks openly, and getting educated. Reading books, going to workshops,
Hmm.
being informed participants.
And the book uses specific terms for the activities, too.
Yeah, just for clarity. The activity itself is often called play,
Okay.
and a specific planned kinky encounter or session is usually called a scene.
A scene, and that might happen in a specific place.
Sometimes, yeah. People might have dedicated playrooms or even use spaces sometimes called dungeons, whether that's a private space or a commercial one. But a scene can happen anywhere agreed upon.
Right. So, thinking bigger picture now, how has the view of kink changed over time? The book touches on that too, doesn't it?
It does. Easton and Hardy talk about a definite shift. From kink being seen purely as something immoral or sick or criminal
Hmm.
towards, well, a growing acceptance, at least in some circles.
What influenced that shift?
Things like the sexual revolution in the 60s and 70s certainly played a part. Just a broader questioning of traditional norms around sex and relationships. It helped create space for more open discussion.
And that led to communities forming.
Exactly. People started finding each other. The book talks about the rise of local support groups, social clubs, educational workshops specifically for kink folk,
Ways to connect and learn.
and reduce that feeling of being alone or weird. It also mentions the early days of online communities, like the net, as they called it back then, or specific bulletin board systems and chat rooms.
Precursors to what we have now online.
Totally. Places like San Francisco and New York were early hubs for these kinds of connections, both offline and online. These communities provide support, education, shared identity. They're really important.
So, for someone whose loved one is part of this world, what's the personal journey like? Coming to terms with it.
The book is really compassionate about this. It stresses that acceptance isn't usually like flipping a switch. It's a process. It takes time.
It's okay if it's not immediate.
Absolutely. And a really crucial point they make is about boundaries. Personal boundaries. Understanding your loved one's kink doesn't mean you have to participate.
You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with.
Not at all. You can choose to understand, to learn, to support them as a person without ever engaging in the activities yourself. Setting those boundaries is healthy and important.
And what if the loved one is your partner, your romantic partner?
That adds another layer, obviously. The book suggests that navigating a partner's kink, while it can be challenging, doesn't have to be devastating. It's not automatically the end of the relationship or proofs that something is wrong or crazy.
It could even be an opportunity.
It could. An opportunity for deeper honesty, communication, maybe even finding new ways to connect or understand each other, even if you decide not to share those specific pinky interests.
That's a hopeful perspective. The book also talks about professionals, right? Therapists, doctors.
Yes, there's specific guidance for what they call helping professionals. Doctors, nurses, therapists, counselors.
What's the advice there?
The main goal is education. Helping these professionals understand kink better so they can provide informed, non-judgmental care.
Because people might hide this stuff from their doctor.
Very often, yes. Out of fear of being judged, misunderstood, or even wrongly diagnosed. So the book encourages professionals to learn the basics, to know that SSC exists, and crucially, to know when and how to refer clients to other professionals who are genuinely kink-aware and affirming.
So people can get the right kind of support.
Exactly. Informed, unbiased support.
Okay. So if we were to sort of wrap this all up, what's the big takeaway message from when someone you love is kinky?
I think the core message is really one of validation and respect. That kink, in all its diverse forms, when practiced ethically,
Safe, sane, consensual.
right, is a valid part of human sexuality for many people. It's often rooted in deep self-knowledge, requires really good communication, and is built on mutual respect. It's not inherently harmful or pathological.
Understanding, not necessarily participation.
Precisely. And maybe a final thought for you, the listeners, something the book hints at that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
It's this idea about presence. They have this line, something like, "It isn't a terrible waste to fail to notice the pleasure you are sharing today because you are preoccupied planning for greater pleasure tomorrow."
Be present in the connection you have now.
Yeah. Whether that connection involves kink or just life. Understanding someone, even if their experiences are different from yours, deepens that connection. It gives you perspective, knowledge. It doesn't mean you have to become kinky yourself.
But gaining that understanding, that broader view of human diversity that can enrich your own life and relationships regardless. It's an invitation, really.
An invitation to be curious.
Exactly. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, continue your own deep dive.